Hello folks, I'm Alex, this is Alex Unabridged, and this is the old school April tag. So welcome back to the channel, if that is the case. Yes, of course we are in the midst of Old School April at the moment, a fantabulous reading and watching and doing event all about nostalgia. And so I thought today I would do the Old School April tag. So let's have a little blast of nostalgia for a Friday afternoon. So let's crack on straight with the prompts then. So first of all, the first kind of group of prompts is Reading Rainbow. Prompt number 1, what book, author or series got you into reading? I've mentioned before on the channel, and I do have a video on the channel about this book, and that is Bunny Rabbit Rebus, the author of which I can't remember. I'll pop it up on the screen. That one was like the first book I remember being quite obsessed with. And reading over and over and over again, but that was very much, you know, it's a rebus, it's a kind of a puzzle in pictures, and a very simple story. The series that I think really got me into just, you know, kind of reading one after the other and then rereading were the Enid Blyton series of like the Faraway Tree series, Enchanted Wood and Faraway Tree series, and Wishing Chair series as well, a kind of sort of, you know, fantasy series. The kids going and having adventures in far off lands, strange lands. I really loved those. I haven't read those since I was a kid. I'd keep meaning to reread those, and I think they'll probably have aged really poorly. But I will give them a reread at some point. It'd be fun to see what they're like these days. Another one that I really liked was Wind in the Willows. I read that and listened to that. We had it on tape, you know, ad nauseum, basically. And the other series when I was a little bit older was a series called Harry and Slug. Harry was a big derpy dog and Slug was a battered old car. And it was kind of just their adventures. And it was, yeah, it's kind of middle grade, I guess, I think, probably like early middle grade sort of age range, but I remember loving those. I read those on my own, and my mum read them to us and stuff like that. They were great. So yeah, so those are a few books there that got me into reading. Prompt number 2 then is what author or book got you into your current favourite genre? Well, my current favourite genre is still horror, even though I am loving science fiction. That is a very new kind of thing for me, science fiction. Horror has been, you know, my favourite genre, my go-to genre since I was a teenager. So the first sort of books that really kind of got me liking horror were at some point horror books, you know, sort of middle grade, early teen horror books. And I read quite a few of those, I had quite a few of those. But the one that really got me into horror generally is Mr. Stephen King. And the book was The Shining when I was about 16. Absolutely fell in love with that, fell in love with King's writing, imagination, etc. And yeah, haven't really looked back since. Okay, next group of questions is mixtape. So prompt number 3 then is, what was the first concert you ever went to? I think the first concert that I actually ever went to would have been with my parents, my dad. It would have been probably a folk festival concert or a Baroque music concert. Both sorts of music that I cannot stand to this day. I'm talking Celtic folk here, Irish and Scottish folk music. And yeah, just as a really little kid, wasn't much fun. Didn't like it, and there was lots of people around as well, lots of crowds, and I still don't do well with crowds these days. And Baroque music just is not my kind of classical music at all. So I don't have great fond memories of those. Those are kind of like, just remember getting dragged to stuff a lot when I was a little kid. The first one that I went to that I really loved the experience was another one with my dad, and when I was about 9 or 10 probably, maybe a little bit younger. And that was to go and see Chuck Berry at Lincoln Ritz Theatre, proper old school theatre. That was phenomenal. That was like, I still have really strong memories of that concert. And that kicked off like a decade or more of going to blues concerts, basically, with my rock and blues concerts with my dad, and jazz as well. We used to go to jazz festivals and all that kind of stuff. I've been to see the blues band umpteen times, more times than I can remember. And that was kind of quality time with my dad, was going to like jazz or blues concerts. The first concert that I kind of went to, the first kind of pop concert, if you like, that I went to kind of with mates, was a very small affair at Cleethorpes Beachcomber, bit of a scratty venue back in those days, been done up since, and that was to see Sean Maguire, who had got one single out. He'd been known for like being in Grange Hill, which was a kids' TV show, and I think he'd been in like EastEnders or something like that as well, soaps, and he'd got like one single out basically. And so we went to see him there, and he was late. He was really late getting on stage, so we weren't that impressed. I was wondering whether any American viewers of mine will know Sean Maguire, but apparently he is a naturalised US citizen these days, and has been in quite a few American TV shows as well. Like, again, soaps, sitcoms, kind of, Law and Order type shows, things like that. So you may well know him. Prompt number 4 then is, what band or artist do you love but never got to see live? There isn't really one that springs to mind for this, really. Again, I'm not really a concert fan generally because of crowds, because of the amount of people. One artist that I did love when I was a kid, who I still think would be amazing to see and never got a chance to see, is Kylie. I do like a bit of Kylie Minogue, and I've seen some of her stuff, like, recorded, and they are spectacular shows. So I think like that was one that I think I would have really liked to have gone to when I was younger, but certainly not now. Again, crowds, can't do the crowds. So the next group of questions then is called, I always feel like someone's watching me. So this is all visual media. So prompt number 5 then, what was your favourite cartoon while growing up? Danger Mouse. That's easy. I loved Danger Mouse. I particularly liked Penfold. Just loved Danger Mouse. I also really loved Count Duckula, that kind of thing. I found those hilarious. Or I really liked Thundercats actually as well. That was one that I did not want to miss when that was on a Saturday morning TV. It was like, get up, watch Thundercats. I did prefer, I have to say though, as a kid, like other kinds of animation, stop motion animation, than cartoons. I loved Trapdoor. If any of you remember Trapdoor, I don't know whether you had that in the US for anybody over there, but I loved that. It was brilliant. And there was one that I particularly enjoyed. It was short-lived, but it was great, and that was called Bertha, and that was set in a factory. Very British, very, very British. It was set in a factory, and the machine in the factory that made all the different things was called Bertha. And it was all based around, if Bertha went wrong or somebody put the wrong things in the machine, all that kind of stuff. It was really simple, but I really, really liked it. It was great, great characters in it, and just a really charming animation, I think. Okay, prompt number 6, name a TV show or a movie that is tied to a good memory. Oh God, there's loads, but I think one that I always remember, a funny memory. There was a TV show that I loved as a little kid, and I would have been really little at this point, probably only like 4 or 5. And the show was called Bellamy's Backyard Safari. and it was David Bellamy, who was a botanist, sort of naturalist, and there was only 4 episodes of it, I think. And it first came out in 1981, which was the year that I was born, so it was repeated by the time I was sort of, you know, 4 or 5. And basically they used to use, you know, technology of the 80s to shrink David Bellamy down as he went through a safari in, you know, a back garden, and looked at, like, they had like huge slugs and all that kind of stuff in it, and it'd be, you know, about kind of, you know, what was just in your backyard. And I loved that show so much. I think I liked it because they shrunk him down, but it, you know, introduced me to some nature stuff from a really early age. But whilst I was kind of watching that, or, you know, kind of very close after watching that, we went on a family holiday to, I think it would have been Austria or Switzerland. And on the morning we were leaving, we were up at the station ready to get the train away from, like, the sort of little town we were staying at or whatever. And there was a bloke on the platform, and I just apparently yelled out, in fact I remember this, yelled at the top of my lungs on a really quiet station, "Look, Dad, there's David Bellamy!" And Dad's just like, "Oh my God." Dad said apparently it was David Bellamy. He was absolutely sure it was David Bellamy. But yeah, talk about embarrassing kid. But yeah, I just have memories of that, and therefore memories of that holiday and David Bellamy's backyard safari. So that's my good memory, embarrassing my dad on a station platform in Europe. Okay, prompt number 7. Name a movie from childhood that you still love today. Most of them, I think, but the ones that immediately come to mind are Flight of the Navigator, which is on my top 10 favourite science fiction films list. I love that film. And Labyrinth. You can't beat a bit of Labyrinth. David Bowie, and all just the creatures in it. It's the puppets in it that I loved so much, particularly Ludo and Sir and Ambrosia the dog. It's just such a charming, fantastical story, and just I can watch that whenever it's on the TV. That's an absolute must to watch. And if I'm poorly or just feeling low or whatever, and I just want a day on the sofa in front of films, that's probably high up on the list of ones to watch. Okie dokes, prompt number 8. Name your first TV or movie crush. I had to think about this a little bit. I think, like, I'll go for one guy, one gal. In terms of the guy, I think I mentioned this last year during Old School April. That would probably be Fred Ward, who starred alongside Kevin Bacon in Tremors. Not Kevin Bacon fan, but Fred Ward. Yeah, probably still, you know, Fred Ward in that. Yeah, still nice. I like my men quite rugged. And then the lady would be Tyne Daly. So that's Lacey from Cagney and Lacey. My dad watched Cagney and Lacey kind of religiously. And they were on repeats and stuff. And yeah, it wasn't you know, it was very much like a kid crush as opposed to like any kind of, you know, sexual crush or anything like that. But yeah, for some reason I was really taken with Lacey. Don't know why, but maybe strong female characters. That's probably what it is. But yes, so yeah, Lacey. I'll put a picture up. Lacey is, for anybody who doesn't know, Lacey is the brunette. Okay, next then we've got Gotta Catch Them All. So the prompt for this is, what was a toy you were obsessed with or collected as a kid? Didn't collect that much stuff. That was my sister. Anything that was possibly collectible, she wanted to collect. So Pogs, Boglins, you know, stuff like that, you know, any kind of card series that, you know, was collector cards. That was all her domain. I wasn't that bothered. The one thing that I did love, and I had lots of, and I kept adding to the collection, right, you know, right into my teens really, was Lego. I loved Lego, particularly the technical stuff, particularly the stuff that you could get, you know, that came with like a battery pack essentially, that you put big chunky, there's big like D batteries in that lasted 2 seconds. That came, and then, you know, you could build a helicopter, and then the blades, the rotor blades would go and stuff like that. So you actually had to make sure that all the moving parts worked properly. I loved that kind of stuff. I had quite a lot of that, but I had also just like boxes and boxes full of like just Lego bricks, and could just make whatever I wanted. And we had like these like Lego squares that you could put together, which had like roadways on, so you could make like a map and then make a whole like city of stuff, things like that. I loved that. If I had room and a lot of disposable income, which I don't on either account, I would be buying the big adult Lego models to build. I do tune in occasionally to Gavin Reads It All, and he has made some huge Lego models recently. The Titanic was the other day, and there was a Lord of the Rings Rivendell, I think it was, sets that he did recently while he's listening to audiobooks and stuff, and it's like I'm so jealous. Yeah, if I won the lottery and had a room where I could have like a big old library, and like, you know, my room basically, I would have half of it as library shelves and half of it for shelves for models, lots of which would be Lego. Okay, next one then is Pacman Fever. Name a board game or video game you associate with your childhood. Video games, we were SNES kids, Super Nintendo, and the games that we constantly played were Super Mario World and Super Mario, Mario Kart. Yeah, many an hour spent on Mario Kart, with many an argument between me and my sister. All good fun though. And we still play today. We've now got the most up-to-date ones. We've both got Nintendo Switches, and we still play Mario Kart. We're just less likely to argue these days. Board games wise, yeah, we liked our board games. Monopoly, that was another one that was a lot of arguments. I don't play Monopoly. I'm not particularly competitive with stuff like that, so I don't play Monopoly so much, because my sister and certainly my wife, those two together around a Monopoly board, no thanks. Another one was Mousetrap, but I never really wanted to play the game side of that. I just wanted to set up all the contraptions and set that off. So that didn't play that so much. Pop-Up Pirates, we played a lot of that. That game is a lawsuit waiting to happen. I've lost track of the amount of times that it's nearly popped me in the eye. And Operation's a classic as well. We had a lot of games of Operation. So yeah, those kind of things. But yeah, we loved our board games. We went through quite a lot of board games. Okay, next one then is She's Got the Look. Name a clothing or trend that was popular when you were a kid. The one that immediately came to mind from the 1990s for me, because bear in mind I was born in '81, so I was kind of a young teen in the 1990s. Were tartan trousers. There was this whole rage for tartan trousers, and I don't know if that was a national thing or whether that was just local to my area, to Grimsby, where I grew up, because I've never heard anybody else talk about it. It was like massive in Grimsby, but maybe it was a Grimsby thing. I don't know. If you were a kid of the 90s in the UK, not in Grimsby, let me know if tartan trousers were a thing for you. The other thing that was like a huge trend when I was at school were like kickers shoes. You had to have a pair of kickers or pods, but kickers were really the thing for your school shoes. Yeah, kickers, I remember those. I remember begging my mum for a pair of kickers, but they were very expensive. I think eventually I got some, but they had to be kind of for my birthday as well. So school shoes for my birthday, that shows how much of a trend it was that I was willing to give up another birthday present just to have some school shoes that were on trend. Other than that, I didn't care about trends particularly at all as a kid. Fashion trends, things like that, still don't. Never have. But yeah, those were the two that I remember. And then finally, we've got I Want Candy, which is name a childhood snack or candy you wish was still made. I had to think about this. This took a bit of thinking about. I noticed in Ollie's video, he was lamenting the name changes to things like Marathon to Snickers and Opal Fruits to Starburst, and I agree with you on that, Ollie. But I have very fond memories of when I first got like my pocket money. The first ever bit of pocket money I got, which was 20p. And we could go to the local post office, which had a shop as well in the village that I lived in. And I'd go and spend it on what my mum called rammel. Now, if you're from Lincolnshire or probably Nottinghamshire, maybe even a little bit into Leicestershire, you'll probably know what rammel is. It's kilter and rammel. There's now but kilter and rammel. It's basically nothing but a bag of rubbish. So a bag of rammel is a bag of rubbish, penny sweets, trashy sweets. And they used to have these under the counter. And back in those days, you also had halfpennies. So like some things would be a halfpenny. You could get a load of stuff for 20p. Like those sort of white chocolate, not really chocolate, fish and chips. Fizzy cola bottles, like the little kind of round discs of chocolate with the sugary bubbles on it, called Razzles, something like that. I don't know what they're called. Fizzy peaches, all that kind of horrible stuff which I hate now as an adult because it's too sweet. Apart from the fish and chips, I love the fish and chips. But yeah, I lament that, being able to go and just get that from a local shop. Like pick and mix is now like completely different. Foam bananas, foam bananas, I do like foam bananas still. The other things that actually are kind of are gone, one that came to mind was this Cadbury's Spira bar, which there's an ongoing like petition, I think, campaign to bring back Spiras. I think they went out, I think they got axed in like early 2000s. I loved them. I used to go through like a ton of those. Probably a good idea that they did get axed, otherwise I'd still be eating them in ridiculous quantities today. But I loved those, absolutely loved those. And Cadbury's Taz bars. They're like, what's it, Freddo, is it Freddo Frog now? Like, got caramel in the middle. But yeah, Taz bars, I liked those mainly because it had Taz, the Tasmanian Devil, on the front. But yeah, those two disappeared. So I lament the loss of, particularly of Spiras. And Caramacs were one of my favourites when I was a kid, and they've just been axed recently, Caramacs. But I'm not too sad because I had one not so long ago, and wow. A, are they sweet, and B, they have that horrible throat burn. You know what I mean? That horrible, like, nasty after burn in your throat of really cheap chocolate candy type stuff. Plus, the rage at the moment is white blonde chocolate, caramelized white chocolate, which is basically kind of the upmarket version of Caramac. That stuff's lovely, and so I can get that easily enough. So I don't mind that Caramac's gone. Anyway, you're making me. This is making me want like all of the naughty stuff now. So I will stop there. But that was the old school April tag. I won't tag anybody in this because, you know, it'll depend on whether you're doing, you know, old school April or not, and I don't know who's done it, all that kind of stuff. I wasn't tagged by anybody. I've seen a few people do this. I'm doing old school April, so I thought I might as well jump on board and do this one because it was a fun one for today, and I'm just about to have a bit of a marathon weekend with my old school April reading. My wife is away. I'm hoping that there are going to be some sprints going on because I haven't managed to hit a sprint yet, so I'm going to look around on YouTubes and see who's doing some sprints for the weekend and do that. So I thought, yes, I will kick off the weekend with the old school April tag. So thank you very much for joining me today, folks. As always, do let me know, you know, your answers, you know, your responses in the comments below, as always. I will be back on Sunday with a book haul, my big birthday book haul. It was my birthday a few days ago and I've already been and spent all of my vouchers. Straight away went and got a load of books, and so I've got a good haul, I have to say. I'm very, very pleased with my haul. So I will be sharing that with you all on Sunday, so I do hope you'll join me for that then. But from me, for now, that's ta-ra.